Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 12. I am Uyaya Nyekan, coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran. Let's take a look at the headlines. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, calls for decentralization of insurance premiums amongst MDAs. Senate probes 1.7 trillion naira security votes to 797 agencies. Plus, Pentagon acknowledges sending previously undisclosed anti-radar missiles to Ukraine. We'll bring you details of the stories and more in a moment. Today is a report that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF, Boss Mustafa, has called for the decentralization of insurance premium among the ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs. Mustafa, who made the call when the governing board of the National Insurance Commission, NICOM, visited him in Abuja, urged NICOM to write for the decentralization of insurance premium among the MDAs after learning that the premium to be paid for insuring public assets was centralized in the office of the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, HOS. The SGF, who was represented by the Permanent Secretary in the General Services Office, Dr. Maurice Mberi, said there should be an increase in the allocation for insuring public assets. Meanwhile, the chairman, NICOM's governing board, Dr. Abubakar Sani, sought the SGF support for executing a compulsory insurance scheme for MDAs, adding that the commission is interested in seeing government's assets insured and requested a circular or letter to all MDAs on the necessity of compulsory insurance. In the legislature, the Senate, through its Standing Committee on Public Accounts, has begun a probe of over 1.7 trillion service VAT votes allocated to federal agencies from 2017 to 2021 budgets. The chairman of the committee, Senator Matthew Ugbarbide, who made this known during the meeting of the committee, said beneficiary government agencies needed to give explanations on how they utilized the fund. He noted that service-wide votes, SWV, which is also known as the country's contingency fund in the annual budget kept for unforeseen expenditures, were a disbursement for shortfall in capital and overheads. The chairman also ordered the acting accountant general of the Federation, Okolia Boss Silver, who appeared before the committee, to submit details of disbursement of service-wide votes as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, the Public Accounts Committee of the House of Representatives is investigating the Nigerian Ports Authority and Ports and Terminal Operators Nigeria Limited, PTOL, for allegedly failing to remit lease and throughput fees collected between 2006 and June 2022, amounting to $68.473 million to the federal government. The committee is also investigating PTOL for allegedly using an exchange rate different from the official one approved by the Central Bank of Nigeria in calculating revenue accruing to the government. Recall that the managing director of the NPA, Mohammed Bello Koko, had in a submission to the committee alleged that one of the port operators in charge of the Port Harcourt port in Rivers State and PTOL used their own exchange rate in calculating revenue. Bello Koko said PTOL used 116 naira to the dollar at a time when the official exchange rate was fixed at 305 naira to the dollar by CBN in 2016. In another development, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NURPC, has insisted that the status quo as regards the acquisition of the entire share capital of Mobile Producing Nigeria Limited by Seplat Energy Offshore Limited had not changed. It specifically stated that the status quo was the decline of assent to the transaction or share acquisition of ExxonMobil shares by Seplat, which was in contrast to an earlier announcement from the presidency that the President Muhammadu Buhari had consented to the acquisition. Recall that a tweet by the presidency yesterday afternoon had stated that President Buhari authorized the move in his capacity as Minister of Petroleum as a way to attract foreign direct investment into the country. In the meantime, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Dr. Timipre Sylvia, has said that the country loses 400,000 barrels of crude oil daily via oil theft. Sylvia, who spoke when he visited Imo State Governor Hope Uzodinma in Owerri, described the development as a national emergency. He regretted that the nation had fallen short of OPEC daily quota from 1.8 million barrels to 1.4 million barrels due to crude theft. He warned that such a huge economic loss was capable of crippling the nation's economy, if not given the seriousness it deserved.
That is left now is the support of the state government, and we thought we should come and ask you for your support so that we can work together. We're losing close to $1.9 billion every month as deferred revenues, either as a matter of losses or saving or some kind of support so that we can work together. We're losing close to $1.9 billion every month as deferred revenues, either as a matter of losses or saving or some form of activity that we are unable to bring for national detail. But what is critical now, the critical element that is left now is the support of the state government, and we thought we should come and ask you for your support so that we can work together. We're losing close to $1.9 billion every month as deferred revenues, either as a matter of losses or saving or some form of activity that we are unable to bring for national detail.
Meanwhile, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State has advocated a review of surveillance contracts on oil facilities to involve host communities in order to check the high rate of oil theft in the country. This was just as it emerged that the federal government, security agencies, Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited, are partnering with Governor Hope Uzodinma and oil-producing communities in Imo State to ensure that the fight against pipeline vandalism and oil theft in the state is contained. The Delta State Governor made the call when he received the federal government delegation on anti-oil theft led by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Timipre Sylvia, at the Government House at Sabah. He admitted that the challenge of oil theft was huge given the level it had assumed, but expressed happiness with the steps being taken by the authorities to curb the menace.
Engagement is by ensuring that we begin to skill our youths and ensure that they become entrepreneurs on their own, which takes away a lot of people from the unemployment market.
In education, the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, has released the 2022 West African Senior School Certificate examination results for schools and withheld the results of 365,564 candidates in connection with various reported cases of examination malpractice. Speaking at the WAEC office, Yaba, head of Nigerian National Office, Patrick Aregan, while announcing the release of the results, said students' preparation for the examinations were poor, adding that candidates were no longer ready to learn. He explained that the 365,564 candidates represented 22.83% of the total number of candidates that sat the examination, saying the number was 11.74% higher than the 10.9% recorded in WAEC for school candidates in 2021.
222,505 candidates, representing 76.36%, obtained credits and above in a minimum of 5 subjects, including English language and mathematics. Of this number, 597,811, that is 37.34%, were male candidates. while 624,694, that is 39.02%, were female candidates. The activities of road website operators and the so-called miracle centers did not go unnoticed and unpunished, as the council was able to identify and apprehend these unpatriotic fellows through the help of security operatives. A few supervisors and invigilators who were caught aiding and abetting examination malpractice were also brought to book. They are currently chatting with the police all over the Federation. The council, on its part, through the Nigeria Examinations Committee, will mete out appropriate sanctions to affected supervisors through the various state ministries of education.
Still in education, the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, is set to engage the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, and Minister of Education, Adamu, over alleged reports that the federal government has no money to meet the demands of the striking academic staff union of universities. The association's Vice President Special Duties, Odiahi Ikine, who addressed a news conference in Abuja, said the students were unhappy with comments credited to the Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Festus Keyamo, that the government had no money to meet the demands of ASU. Keyamo was said to have asked parents to beg ASU to call off the strike because the government could not afford the 1.2 trillion demands of the union as proposed by the Emeritus Professor Nimi Briggs Committee on renegotiation of the 2009 FGN/ASU agreement. Ikene vowed that the students would not relent in their effort to ensure the right thing is done.
I don't know why Festus Keyamo made that statement. Maybe the product he was trying to sell is he found it difficult to and had to opt for that option. But as it is, except the government comes out tomorrow to tell us that they are no longer capable, that they can no longer provide education, which is part of the basic amenities they should be providing. So we would not take the position of Festus Keyamo serious.
Back here, a human rights activist and an advocate for gender equality, Barrister Enobong Akpan, has called for support of involvement of women in Nigerian leadership to help actualize their aspirations and dreams. Akpan mentioned the political party systems and structures which prevents women from standing for political positions as one of the factors women are poorly represented in leadership positions. She emphasized that the media should also give proper coverage to women candidates as they do for male, and also step up their role to accommodate women in the political space. Further speaking, Akpan stated that cultural tradition and religious practices has also affected the participation of women in politics, therefore neglecting what they have to offer to the society. She, however, asked that women should be given equal rights as men and also be promoted to leadership positions. Akpan advised women to ensure that they succeed in whatever leadership position they find themselves in order to boost their confidence. Move now to Africa, where Libya has begun trying men accused of being members of the Islamic State group. More than 50 men dressed in blue jumpsuits sat behind a cage in Misrata courtroom as armed security personnel kept an eye on them. They are accused of being members of a terrorist organization and of carrying out killings. A lawyer representing the victims and their families, Lotfi Mussein, said the objective of these hearings and representing the families of the martyrs and the wounded is to provide evidence against each accused so that the trial is fair and not subject to appeal. Recall that in 2014, Islamic State took advantage of the disorder that followed the killing of Muammar Gaddafi to establish itself in Libya. In 2015, the organization seized the coastal city of Sirte, but lost it in 2016 after heavy fighting between the jihadis and Misrata forces. Although the group was defeated in Libya, some experts have expressed concern that it could reappear in the country's south, where its members have staged deadly ambushes against security forces. In Kenya, hundreds of reportedly lined up to vote in a high-stakes election today. 22.1 million registered voters would elect their president, senators, governors, lawmakers, women representatives, and some 1,500 county officials. Reports say before 3 a.m. GMT, the official opening hour for polls, citizens queued to participate in the general elections taking place against a backdrop of soaring prices for food and fuel, a drought that has left millions hungry, and deep disenchantment with the political elite, especially among the youth. The 55-year-old Deputy President William Ruto, who is considered one of the main contenders of the presidential race, cast his ballot in primary school in Uasin Gishu, Western Kenya, accompanied by his wife Rachel Ruto. Kenyans have until 2 p.m. GMT to cast their ballots. Both Odinga and Ruto have called for a peaceful vote, but fears remain that if the losing candidate challenges the outcome as widely expected, the discord could erupt into widespread violence. Hence, security is tight, with more than 150,000 officers being deployed. Official results is expected to be announced within a week of the election. Independent Electoral and Boundary Commission is under pressure to ensure an untroubled vote. On the foreign scene, the FBI has executed a search warrant at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach, Florida, as part of an investigation into the handling of presidential documents, including classified documents that may have been brought there. The former president confirmed in a statement that the FBI agents were at the Mar-a-Lago and said they even broke into his safe as he was at Trump Tower in New York when the search warrant was executed in Florida. The extraordinary move to search the home of a former president raises the stakes for the Justice Department and comes as Trump's legal problems continue on multiple fronts. Trump is also expected in the coming months to announce if he will launch another bid for the White House in 2024. The Justice Department has two known active investigations connected to the former president. One on the efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election on January 6, 2021, and the other involving the handling of classified documents. Still on the foreign scene, at least 8 people have been killed in Seoul after record downpours flooded homes, roads, and subway stations in the South Korean capital, cutting power and forcing hundreds to evacuate, according to the authorities. South Korea's Interior and Safety Ministry said 3 of those who died had been trapped in a flooded semi-basement. 9 others were injured and 6 people remain missing. According to reports, since midnight Monday, local time, parts of Seoul saw a total of 422 millimeters, 16 inches of rain, prompting authorities to raise the highest level 3 emergency alert. The city recorded 141.5 millimeters, about 5.57 inches of rain per hour, the highest rate since authorities began keeping records. Photos from across the city show severe flooding, with people wading across roads up to their thighs in water. In some parts of Seoul, drains backed up and sent water pouring back into streets and subway stations. According to Seoul Metro, a number of subway stations were closed due to flooding, with lines temporarily suspended Monday night. As of this morning, authorities were still working to reopen the stations. In the meantime, the Pentagon has announced that the U.S. has sent anti-radar missiles for Ukrainian aircraft to target Russian radar systems, marking the first time the Defense Department has acknowledged sending the previously undisclosed missile to Ukraine. Colin Kahl, the UN Secretary of Defense for Policy, said at a press briefing that the U.S. had sent a number of the missiles without specifying how many the U.S. has provided or when they were sent. Kahl did not explicitly say what type of anti-radiation missile was sent. Kahl said the missiles had been sent over in recent presidential drawdown authority packages, but the 5 most recent packages dating back to July the 1st make no mention of harms. Still to come in the news. Commonwealth Games end, Buhari hosts Team Nigeria. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying tuned. In our business news, President African Development Bank AFDB Dr. Akinwumi Adesina says the bank is set to deliver climate-adapted certified wheat and other staple crop seeds to 20 million farmers. Adesina, who said this in a document obtained by journalists in Abuja, noted that the initiative, which was part of activities by the bank, would tackle food crises in African countries, including Nigeria. The president said the delivery of seeds and increased access to agricultural fertilizers would be done through the bank's African Emergency Food Production Facility, adding that within the next 2 years, the facility would allow farmers to produce 38 million more tons of food. Adesina said the facility would also support enhanced governance and policy reforms. Still in business, the federal government has budgeted about 874.83 billion naira for the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development from 2016 to 2021, whereas the imports of agricultural goods into Nigeria during the same period were reportedly estimated at 7.81 trillion naira. It was gathered that the highest imports of agricultural goods into the country during the period under review were recorded in 2021, as products valued at 2.74 trillion naira were imported last year. On the other hand, the least imports within the same duration were reported in 2016. Nigeria's agricultural goods imports in 2016 were estimated at 656.4 billion naira. Operators in the agribusiness space have frowned at the development, outlining a plethora of reasons for the massive imports when compared to what was budgeted and often not fully released to the Agri Ministry during the review period. In health, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has commended the Kebbi State government on signing the Child Rights Bill passed by the State House of Assembly into law. The UNICEF also called on the state government to allocate and release adequate resources as well as put in place mechanism for full implementation of the law to grant children the rights enshrined in it. The Kebbi State Child Protection Bill was signed into law by the state governor, Senator Abubakar Bagudu, as well as the Prohibition of Violence Against Individuals Bill at the weekly Executive Council meeting at the council chambers of the Government House, Burning Kebbi. In a press statement made available to newsmen, UNICEF representative in Nigeria, Peter Hawkins, noted that by signing the Child Rights Bill into law, Kebbi State has joined the group of states which have a legislative framework through the domestication of the Nigeria Child Rights Act. Reports say that 31 states have so far enacted the state equivalent of the Child Rights Act, but Adamawa, Bauchi, Gombe, Kano, and Zamfara states are yet to domesticate the law. Still in health, the Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Ehanire, has urged the military to increase awareness of mental health among its personnel, noting that this will help to address the impact of post-trauma and stress disorder among troops. Ehanire made the call at the opening of the Mental Health Resilience and Wellness Course 2 of the Nigerian Army Resource Center in Abuja. The minister, who was represented by the National Coordinator of the National Mental Health Program of the Ministry, Dr. Tunde Ojo, said that the efforts should include programs that would address the stigma and discrimination associated with mental illness, saying it was one of the greatest barriers to accessing care. The minister also stressed the need to create a conducive working environment, including one that promotes mental well-being and proactively addresses the mental health needs of officers and men when identified. Ehanire said that the ministry was leading the initiative for the improvement of mental health care services in Nigeria by developing a National Mental Health Bill 2020 for an act to repeal the Lunacy Act of 1958, adding that proactive measures had been put in place with the establishment of the National Mental Health Program in March, pending the conclusion of the legislative processes on the bill. In sports, Minister of Youth and Sports Development Sunday Dare has assured members of the historic Team Nigeria contingent to the 2022 Commonwealth Games of a presidential reception. The 11-day Commonwealth Games in Birmingham ended on Monday with the World and Commonwealth gold medalist Toby Amusan, Team Nigeria's flag bearer, at the closing ceremony. Team Nigeria achieved their best performance ever in Birmingham since it started taking part in the Commonwealth Games in 1950, winning 12 gold, 9 silver and 14 bronze medals, a total of 35 medals that see them sit 7th on the medals table. Speaking with the athlete, Dare praised the team for bringing the country into global focus for positive reasons, adding that the president is also very proud of the team and has approved that a presidential reception be held to honor them for the historic feat at the Birmingham Games 2022. Still in sports, gold medalist in the women's long jump event of the 2022 Commonwealth Games, Ese Brume, has emphasized the significant role her coach Kayode Yaya played in her rise to the top. Brume, who jumped 7 meters in her 6th and final jump to set the game's record in Birmingham, as well as retained her title in the long jump event, further stated that the medal is special because it shows her consistency and that the hard work of those supporting as well as her coach paid off. She also thanked God for giving the talent to impact the lives of many people, especially the young ones. In our entertainment news, the federal government has secured the release of popular singer and songwriter Oluwatobiloba Daniel, also known as Kiss Daniel, who was arrested in Tanzania over failing to show up for a paid concert in the country. Chairman, Chief Executive Officer of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, Abike Dabiri Erewa, announced that the singer had been released. Recall that organizers of the Summer Amplified show had arrested the Buga hitmaker for failing to perform at the well-publicized show on Sunday night. Fans of the singer were forced to wait until 6 a.m. for a live performance, but Kiss Daniel was absent. Still in entertainment, Big Brother Nigeria Season 7 housemate Adekunle has emerged as the head of house for week 3 of the season. This was announced after the Big Brother Nigeria level of housemates had their head of house games. During the announcement after the games, Big Brother also stated that the level 1 and level 2 housemates are to swap houses. As a result of the swap, level 1 housemates will be in the multicolored apartment, while level 2 housemates will be in the black and white apartment. Big Brother noted that the housemates only changed their houses but retained their identity as either level 1 or level 2 housemates. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 12. I am Enacting. Thanks for watching and do enjoy the rest of your day.